Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for having me today. I think this is a really interesting topic to talk about because ChatGPT is just another example of how quickly the digital landscape is changing, how radically it's changing. And I think it's really important to understand what the student perception is and how students are interacting with, but also what the future of higher education is with the implementation of AI and other tools. So I know there's a lot of words, but I'll kind of go through it. There's only 2 slides, so hopefully we can run through it. Um, the biggest conversation around ChatGPT is the academic integrity. Now, current assessment methods like essays and reports, they make it a lot harder to mitigate for the use of AI tools like ChatGPT and the detection tools that have been trialed to detect the academic malpractice have been beaten in practice. They don't really work with ChatGPT. And as I said, the digital landscape is changing so rapidly, and Microsoft is implementing AI tools in Teams and Bing Search, and there's so many things that are happening that um, that we can't keep up with. Um, and Wonky, which is a um, kind of an student higher education forum, they stated that a ban on such tools would make about as much sense as banning the use of the word spell checker due to how frictionless they are designed to be. It is not really feasible to be banning things like AI tools. Instead, we must move towards an approach of openness and awareness of the positives of ChatGPT, and also looking at implementing authentic assessment styles, which is something that we're focusing here at Kent on. And a lot of work from the Students' Union perspective is going into authentic assessment. We're working very closely with the university on that. And what this reflects is students being assessed in methods that have key skills that are needed in their future careers. And we know that this doesn't work in every course, like medicine or engineering, things like that, which have requirements of key assessment that are needed to progress. But majority of courses can have various styles of assessment that are not just essays and reports. That can be testing students' ability and their kind of academic knowledge in unique ways that maybe ChatGPT wouldn't be able to help them with. And we carried out an authentic assessment survey, which highlighted key pieces of coursework that were interesting to students, and majority of them were like creative pieces, and which had direct insights into industries linked to the course. Actually, the example I have here is something that I did, and it's a module that the next speaker, Debbie, actually carried out, and I was in her class for product design and buying, and I think it was one of the best assessments I've ever had. And it was where we were given a brief by a local business and had to create a whole product line with designs and research and everything kind of implemented into that product design, and then pitch it directly to the executives from that business and Debbie herself. And this gave a really full-rounded assessment that gave us the key skills needed in our future careers. And I did business and management, so it was really useful to understand how that works. So I think it was really important to see that in situations like this, I couldn't get ChatGPT to design, baby wear. So I had to kind of do it myself in the groups. There's things like that that really challenge students, but not just in academic sense, but in their creativity and their critical thinking and key learning outcomes that are needed. Um, Going into my next slide. Hope this works. It's the future, and the future is the accept and progress, which is really important. So there's something called computer-based maths, which is a movement that aims in reforming maths education. And this is built on the simple basis that computers exist, AI exists, and they want to develop math education knowing that these tools are available, but how can they progress that? And this is the approach we must take to ensure academic integrity. Rather than protecting this is a quote as well from Wonky, which I love. Rather than protecting the status quo, we could be working with students to design the assessment of the future. Academics have a responsibility to teach students how to use all kinds of tools and resources. That includes any search engines, any AI tools, academic literature, databases, all of those things in a useful but moral and ethical fashion. And already designed assessments with a core focus on academic integrity, but augmented with a sense of trust and an understanding that these tools exist and will and should be used. So we are moving rapidly. Just with the pandemic itself, we saw how quickly everything went digital. just to be able to actually carry out education as it used to be. And people adapted, people learned, and we are in a new normal now. What we want to do is make it so that people are able to use these tools, but in a way that it still allows them to use the skills that they're learning in their courses. And students are agreeing with that. Putting a ban on things or stopping people from using it does not actually stop them. They will find a way, and students, as everyone probably knows, are quite quick on their feet. They will find a way to be able to work through any problems that come up and use the tools that are available to them. And this generation specifically, as well, is really informed in using the digital tools that are available. So it's claimed actually that ChatGPT can write an essay deserving a 2-2. So in theory, the user still requires a lot of critical reasoning, which is a key learning outcome, and critical thinking to bring this up to a much better standard. So I wanted to pose the question, would improving an AI answer be considered an interesting and useful assessment design? Now, that's something for people to think about. I personally think it would be. I think that would be quite interesting if we were given an AI answer and everyone had to go out and build their answer upon that. It would be quite a good assessment design. The QAA also published guidance on academic integrity with AI, and the advice was quite simple. It's to communicate early with students and discuss the technology with them. Design assessments are co-creation, iteration, and critical thinking skills, and the detection tools are unverified and ineffective. And these are really key points that came out from the conversations I've had with students around this as well, and things that came out of our authentic assessment survey as well. And I think the next step depends on the access to technology. And Maha really highlighted the inequity when it comes to AI tools, because AI exists, but it's not evenly distributed. And it's highly dynamic, meaning that it can change radically at any moment. We must design assessments that authentically assess the skills of students rather than what tools that they can afford or access. Because a lot of the tools, even ChatGPT, has a paid version. So if you are going to be implementing things that take into account these AI tools, it needs to be accessible to every single student to give them a fair, equitable playing field. And that's really important to be able to provide students with the best possible experience and the best possible education that they can get. That's all from me in terms of my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Zaid. Let me just put the screen on. So it's just got the one, if you bear with me 1 second. There's been a lot of stuff in the chat, basically kind of agreeing with what you're saying, and really pleased that you're here kind of giving the student voice. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I had one question, actually, if that's okay, because we do still have a minute or so. And apologies if you've already covered this, but we're trying to kind of cover quite a few different things at once here. So how do you think ChatGPT can support student learning and engagement, and kind of what are the unique strengths that you see as a student in comparison with maybe a teacher?
I think ChatGPT is a really amazing tool that people can use. I think we always look at it in the way of it's writing your essay for you. But to be able for it to do that, you need to still be inputting the right information to be getting the right outcome from it. And that means students still have to go out there, do their critical thinking, find out what their essays are about, if they're whatever their reports are, and then edit it to kind of make it their own. And I'm not saying that it isn't possible that there will be issues when it comes to plagiarism and things like that with ChatGPT, but there are so many more positive outcomes that can come from the use of AI tools like this. And to be honest, I didn't have access to tools like this when I started my degree like in 2018. But if I did, I'd be able to actually, I think, improve my academic literacy. I'd be able to write a lot better because I'd be able to see how an AI is writing it, maybe, and like learn from that as well. And you kind of learn and grow from these things as a two-way street. It's not just using it.
I think that's a great answer, and I think it's so true, isn't it? I think we can all kind of appreciate how good this is as long as it's used in the right way, and I think that's the key part, isn't it? And I think from the people that I've spoken to, both academics and students, I think most people seem to be kind of singing from the same song sheet, in that they appreciate that it can't be used for everything, and it's kind of just making sure that you kind of you have to have an idea or an understanding on a topic to be able to critique it. And I think that's the key message that we need to be able to get across. So yeah, I think that's really good. So Nick, do we have any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, one of them here is, one of the tabled solutions to students using ChatGPT in assessments is to promote more verbal/Viva-like assessments. Is this the route we want to go? Because these assessments aren't necessarily accessible for learners who struggle with high stakes assessments. So I suppose, do you have any comments on that from sort of a student point of view?
100%. I think from what we've heard in the surveys that we've done, we've found that oral exams are something that students want. I think they are able to, project what they've learned in a much more efficient way than sometimes writing it down. And I think every student learns in a different way, but they also produce their assessments in a different way. And that's where I think you need to take into account inclusive practices when it comes to learning. And it's ensuring that students have the right support and the resources available to be able to complete their assessments and give them an equitable playing ground, because people with neurodiversity who may not be able to do oral assessments, but at the same time, there's also people with neurodiversity who aren't able to do written assessments. How do you give them the right support necessary to be able to succeed in their education? Because that is the true purpose of any university or any educational institution. It is providing them with that support. So I think they kind of play in tandem. So we really have to think about the authentic assessment side of things, but then inclusive practices as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And we're kind of run out of time now, so yeah, thank you so much, Zaid, for joining us. I know Zaid is going to have to run off in a moment because he is super busy. But if you do have any further questions for Zaid, please stick them in the QA and we will try to respond. And if we can't, we'll try to get a response from Zaid and we'll get back to you with that response. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.